Hey, my name is TJ. I'm a person in long-term recovery. I'm here hosting the Recovery Matters podcast with
Brian Dolan, person in long-term recovery. Super pumped to be here with you, dude.
Sir.
Let's chill.
I do got to say, you are one hell of a basketball player.
Yeah.
Listen, I'm telling you right now, you got it.
Edit that, put it out there, like make sure that gets across all platforms. I don't know about that, but yeah, like basketball I love it. It clears my mind, and we got to play more.
Clears your mind and doesn't destroy your life.
Correct. Contrary to a lot of what I'm sure we'll get into, but yeah, it quiets the mind. You know, more than anything else I do.
Wow.
You know? Yeah.
That's really cool.
It's great.
Yeah.
You still playing?
No. I want to be. I had a great stretch where I was hooping every week with a bunch of people in recovery.
Yeah.
Changed my life.
Yeah, we got to get it back going.
I'm down.
Friday nights, Fairfield to you, probably 2 weeks from now.
Okay.
Yeah.
We would love that because we have young people and family services right in Bridgeport and New Haven.
Let's do it.
Yeah, we're in.
Let's go.
Perfect.
Hopefully I don't bust an ankle.
I know you got an amazing recovery story, and I know you hit a lot of different aspects of recovery, and I would love to get into that. Tell me what life was like for you growing up.
Grew up in Western Massachusetts,
Okay.
the Berkshires. I was the youngest of three in a middle class family. Alcohol and drugs weren't in the home. I got all the right messages about drugs and alcohol. I had grandparents and members of my family that really struggled, so I got all the right messages. So from a young age, I would say that I had those, like, you know, if you asked me in third and fourth grade, it would be like, yeah, I would never, you know. But then my parents went through a pretty tough divorce.
Okay.
I had some pretty significant childhood trauma earlier than that. I'll kind of leave it there, but it played a big role in my addiction. And sports was everything in my life growing up. Like, it was my identity. It was my, you know, we talk about like the game at Fairfield. It was like my community. I wasn't the best. I certainly wasn't the best, but I was always organizing it. I was always like cultivating guys coming over my backyard, setting up pickup leagues, and then, you know, just like, so I was playing sports, travel sports all year round. So that was like a big part of my childhood, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
At what age did you discover drugs and alcohol? And what was that like?
Yeah. So, you know how people talk a lot about the moment of arrival, right? When they experience their first drink or drug. So I was going into my freshman year in high school, and I was 14.
Yep.
My parents were divorced. I had started to drift away from some of my really good friends. I was kind of not taking academics seriously. I was, you would say, like, I was lost, right?
Yep.
And I got a phone call, I'll never forget it, because it was like the days of, like, you had the one phone in the middle of the house, you know? And I got a call, you know, like, and I got a call from my buddies up the street who had, like, not that long before, like, these were my guys. And it wasn't like they were, like, not, it wasn't like they were, like, I wasn't friends with them, but I was dealing with, like, some trouble at home. I was insecure. You know, I wasn't the guy that was, like, getting the girls in school. I wasn't, like, none of that. So, you know, I had gone from kind of, I would say, elementary school, middle school, kind of being a little bit more like, you know, I wouldn't say like, yeah, I would say like the popular guy. And then that was like fading fast, you know? And so I get this call and they're like, we're drinking, and come up the street. And that was like, boom, right? So I didn't have the insight in that. So like, I think of it as like, it brought me closer to them. And I didn't have the insight then to be like, okay, I'm going to take this and make this my identity. But that's exactly what happened, you know? So like, you know, now it's like week after week where I drink more than all of them, and I'm getting involved in, you know, my brother was a senior when I was a freshman in high school. So we got to like, we felt pretty cool because we would get asked to go to a lot of like the senior parties and like, I could drink just as much as they could, if not more, right? And they had been drinking for years. So I was starting to develop this and there was almost this competition in it, right? That I was
Yeah.
I wasn't out of the sports world, but I was losing that discipline around it. And there was a competition to be able to drink more than everyone else. And I was really taking on that identity. And, so yeah, that was kind of my first experience was all about reconnecting with people, and
Yep.
that was the beginning of it,
Yes.
just what it brought to me around, friends and stuff like that.
So it's really escalating. Do you go off to college?
So great question. My senior year, I would say from a pretty young age, there was this internal desire to be a college athlete, right?
Okay.
And hoops wasn't going to be it. I got really into the game of golf. I was always
Cool.
working at a country club, gambling at a country club, making
Yep.
money, quick money. Alcohol was very prevalent in that scene. And at this point in high school, I had many major episodes with alcohol in school, drugs. Not the cops showed up to parties. I wasn't I hadn't been arrested, but I definitely should have been.
Yeah.
And so and not against I'm not resentful of this, but I think my parents looked at if he can stick with sports, then that's going to save him, because
Yep.
it was I didn't want to go to college. I didn't there was nothing about me looking back at my high school years that was motivated around academics. It was college, there might be an upside because of the scene and the parties, and that's what everyone else is doing, but it wasn't from an own internal drive and long-term goals, right?
Yep.
And so I went down. Tiger Woods at the time was a big, biggest golfer ever, and at the time he was number one in the world. And his coach had this academy in South Carolina that had the best players from all around the world. And I got in there. I wasn't the best player. I was one of the worst players there, but I got pretty good. And then I went to Sacred Heart undergrad to play. For about 2 weeks, I thought about it and just said, no, I'm not gonna really do this,
Okay.
So I got to college really as a about to be 20-year-old, and when I tell you, I was light years ahead of because they put me in a freshman dorm. I had accumulated maybe 12, 15 credits from down in South Carolina, and I got
Yep.
there, and it was I was teaching these kids how to drink and party and
Yep.
and so yeah, that's kind of so I did somehow once again. So this is the other, I think, big part. So the gambling's already going on. The gambling's pretty present, and I started getting away with things a lot.
Okay.
So my freshman year, me and a good buddy of mine were selling a lot of weed, and we're up in Springfield, Mass, picking up a couple pounds of marijuana, and he had the bag. Cops got us on campus. He goes down for it. I walk. My parents don't even find out about it, right? And in Bridgeport, bottle between my legs, DUI easy, right? Should be an automatic DUI. White boy, Sacred Heart, you can walk, right?
Yep.
Grateful, but so what that was doing was kind of starting to build this, I can't be stopped. I can't be touched, because in some ways the infrastructure around me, right? White privileged kid, I was getting away with stuff. Sacred Heart was a great school, but I just I was able to manipulate professors. I was able to turn in work late. I was able to my mom at the time was still enabling me in many ways. In those years, I had bookies show up to campus looking for money. It was a very different landscape there as far as the betting. It was all underground.
Yep.
So yeah, just I always tell people the first really scary day of my life was somehow, some way in 4 years I graduated. I should have been arrested multiple times. I should have had, that that drug dealing thing was like, my parents didn't know about that until I got sober, because I was just able to like hide these things. And, I finally, the day I graduated college, I got really, it was the first really scary day because it was like, I was partying, having
Yep.
fun, right? Like, I don't think my friends in those days would describe this as like super dark, like drug addict, alcoholic, compulsive gambler, but it was like,
Hmm.
they were focusing more on the future. I was like, and then you're in the college environment where like a lot of that stuff, like that behavior is co-signed a lot, right? Like it's,
Yep.
oh, yeah, I had friends everywhere that would, do a bag of cocaine with me and on a Tuesday night. And, so there was just like a lot of that stuff going on. So I graduate. And then really quickly after I graduate, I had been gambling. I had probably already been, I would say at that time, I had probably already lost like somewhere between, $25 and $50,000.
Jesus.
And I I go on this like really big gambling run. So
Okay.
at this point, my drinking is like I never had two drinks in my life. I'm either
Yep.
drinking or not. I was probably like a 2 or 3 times a week cocaine guy,
Okay.
and then I was a compulsive sports gambler. And I go on this like big gambling run. I make about $70,000 in a short amount of time,
Wow.
which is like I'm 23 maybe. Like I'm like, this is awesome, And
Yep.
now I'm boom, 8 ball of coke every day, just like $200 a day coke habit
Yep.
overnight, and that crashed and burned quickly. Then I lost a bunch of money to the wrong type of guy
Okay.
and had to go to my family. I was like really scared. And that's the other story I tell a lot is like the first time I went into a detox facility, it was like Packers Lions game, Thursday night football game. And I had a big bet on the Lions and the game ended in a Hail Mary. And so I get to detox. Now I've been doing all that cocaine. I was super lost. I was super scared. And the first guy that ever talked to me in like a recovery program was like, hey, have you, why are you here? And I go, well, did you see the game the other night? And he goes, yeah, but like, what does that have to do with it? Well, I was like, well, if Aaron Rodgers doesn't make that pass, I'm not walking into this detox, right?
Yep.
Because like that's the difference, right? The gambling, like if I've been able to keep the money coming in or not losing and all this stuff, like I would have been able to like stay out there. So
Yep.
yeah, that was like the beginning, but I didn't get it right out of there,
Yeah, that it really put it's like a trap door.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, don't worry, boom, gone.
100%, dude.
Yeah.
100%.
So you lose a bunch of money, to this guy that you're
Yes.
super scared of. You go to mom and dad and you're like, hey,
Yeah.
and they're like, get some help.
So basically, I took a bunch of the money. So like this is a pretty common thing I see in my work with gamblers, right? Is like I owed maybe $20,000 and I said I owed 30, right? Because I
Yeah.
have this like debt, right? Like I have this drug habit, right? So like I give the guy the 20, I keep it going. And that wasn't like my family didn't have that type of money. Like my dad's moving money around from like his my grandparents that might have been leaving something. Like he's having to talk to, he's one of six. He's got to talk to all these people and get cash fast. Like it was not, I grew up like I was blessed, like getting to go to school and stuff, but that was like insane. And I think a big part of my story too is like I grew up in kind of the middle of nowhere, right? In like Western Mass. And like when I got down to Sacred Heart, I was exposed to so much like Long Island, North Jersey,
Yep.
Manhattan, Westchester County. It was just kids with money, and
Yep.
like once again that triggered that like insecurity. So I wanted to be the guy that had the coke in his pocket or have more money on the game than everyone else. And that was like, once again, I didn't have this insight at this time, but it's like clear as day when I look back. I was insecure and I was looking for all the wrong things to like fill it and get external like peer validation from, like, you know, and that's kind of what it was, you know.
What was the last day like for you?
The last day ever.
Yeah.
So I go to treatment. I went to Mountainside my first time. Then I go to the
Okay.
sober house in Brooklyn. I'm like
In Brooklyn, New York.
Brooklyn, New York. Yep.
Yep.
You know what's funny is, like, you know how we always talk about, like, when you break down a relapse, you're sitting there with someone you're working with, and it's like, you're kind of like, you know, what are the decisions before? There was 100 decisions you made before you actually picked up the drink or the drug or the bet. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So when I got to Mountainside, I didn't know anything about like sober living. I was like blind to it all. I'd been to like one GA meeting way back in high school, and then I'd gone to one A meeting after a possession. I did get like a possession charge of cocaine
Okay.
and like a disorderly. And like I made a deal and started working with the recovery coach, and, like, you know, luckily, you know, it's off my record or whatever. But I certainly so I go to Brooklyn because, like, and my first crack at it, like, I was pretty committed. Like, I was like, yeah, like, I was getting honest. I was working on some of the trauma I talked about. I was like, was giving it a shot, you know. I wasn't like super resistant. I had known, like, my false presentation of who I was like breaking down, because I, you know, and I went to Brooklyn just because, like, I had a couple like friends there, you know,
Okay.
like, and that was like the decision long before. Like, I didn't like let them decide. So then I do 90 days total with like 30, 60 days in sober living, come out, and I was going to a lot of Gamblers Anonymous and AA meetings.
Okay.
And a buddy of mine was like, hey, we're going down to South Carolina, this famous course, like #1 course on the East Coast. And it's like bucket list place for me, you know, as a golfer, a guy who, like, and the whole room's like, you can't go. And I'm like, I don't have to pay for anything. This guy's like super wealthy. He was like, I don't have to pay for anything. So the whole room's like, no, don't go. And I go down there and I tell the whole trip, there's like 12 guys, and that I'm sober. And my buddy's dad's actually in long-term recovery. He's probably now got like 20 years. And, but I gamble. I didn't tell him I had a gambling problem. Right. So, like, pretty small change compared to what I was doing, like $100, you know, bet. But that was like enough. And then
Set it off.
back to Brooklyn, coke, gambling, the whole thing. Treatment center #2, Seabrook House in New Jersey.
Yep.
30 days there, come back to the same sober house, maybe last like 30 days.
Okay.
I move in with a girl, not a romantic relationship, actually a girl from the rooms. I was like 26 maybe at the time. She was like in her 50s, working a strong program. She offered me a room under the assumption that I was sober. I was not. That didn't last very long, you know. So then the next couple months, probably next 6 months or a year, were like really, really dark. I bounced around like month to month places in Brooklyn. I somehow had a job, but I was like not performing well. And I was like, what it looked like for me at the end was like, the only people I knew in Brooklyn were in AA, or like someone that could get me like cocaine, right? Like, those was two extremes at this point. There was no like friends, there was no socializing. So, like, back to that initial phone call, right? Like, it was completely away from the connection that like drugs and alcohol and gambling once provided. It was now super isolated. I'd be like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I'd maybe be in AA. There was one group where I was like one day back Bry, you know, I was always picking up a white shit, you know, and like, it was dark. It was dark, dude. It was really, really dark. And so my last bet was November 27th, 2016. And in those days, before the legalization, you're seeing all this like DraftKings, FanDuel. It was all bookies, right? If you want to bet on sports, like, unless you were in Las Vegas, you were betting underground with bookmakers.
Yep.
So basically what happens is I'm out of no bookie that I know they're done with me. I've either ducked them, like I've not paid my debts, or I have taking too long to pay them, or friends that I knew that gambled were also done with me betting on their accounts, saying, "Hey, TJ, I know you got an account with this, Joe over at the barbershop. Give me 500 on the Steelers." Like
Yep.
my friends were done. They're the people I knew. So I bet this game, and basically I was stuck without action. I mean, in my day, it was like a very different landscape. There wasn't all this like access in your face. Like it was like you had to work to
Yep.
place a bet on sports in particular, right? You could go to scratch offs were not like my thing. Like I was a sports bettor. Sports were
Yep.
my identity, and that's like what it was. I mean, I had my fun at casinos and all that stuff. So anyway, that's November. February 8th, 2017 is my last drink or drug.
Yep.
I basically, in that time, that never would have happened today, right? Is my point, right? Like that date is only because the non-legalization of sports betting, right? Like if it
Yep.
was that time, every time I would have had $50, I'd be like, here's a parlay, but there was
Yep.
no action. So it was really dark, and I had used suicide before and like depression to manipulate my parents for money.
Mm-hmm.
And I hit a point where I actually wanted to do that.
Okay.
And I was drinking every day. Anytime I had excess money, I was doing coke. But my last run was like the first time I was ever like physically dependent on alcohol. Like you'd get sick if you stopped. Like the withdrawals. Like that was like because I was so broke. I had a little bit of money, so like my coke habit had come way down from like 200 a day to like, maybe when I get paid Friday, I'd buy an 8-ball or something like that. But it was alcohol now.
Yep.
My first love,
Mm-hmm.
and I called my mom, and I'll never forget it. And I was afraid to go like in the subway. I was afraid to like, because now I was like, I can't get this. Like I want to be sober, but I can't.
Mm-hmm.
And I call Mountainside again because they had an indoor basketball court, which was sick.
Yep.
I was like, I want to go back and play basketball. And she said something that she says to this day that she had probably said before, but for whatever reason, I finally heard it. And it was like, Brian, you don't get it. You're still making your own decisions. Basically, I was always manipulating the terms of my treatment, right? I'll go to the sober house, but I want to go to Brooklyn. Why Mountainside might have wanted me to go to Colorado. I don't know. But it was always my plan. It was always me dictating. And I like, for whatever reason, like I like to call it God, like, I surrender. I go to a place called Williamsville Wellness, which was because the other part of my story was like gambling would often bring me back. Like I tell it to the guys I work with now, like I would probably gamble first, right? Because there's not a physical symptom. I could hide it. No one would know, right? Like I wouldn't go straight back to the drink, like I would just, I would, get back in that like, so I go to this place called Williamsville, and I get really tight with a guy who played in the NFL. We were like best friends, and we moved to South Florida together. Made one call to a person I knew back in Brooklyn that I respected. This woman, Dawn, she ran a sober house that I lived in, and she was like, here's what you do. I'm on this like 20-hour train ride. I'm discharging treatment in Richmond, Virginia, and I'm going to West Palm. It's like a 20-hour train ride. I got like $50 to my name. I'm going to Florida. Yeah, my buddy Luke is like down there already, but I don't know, I'm moving to Florida. I got nothing. She's like, I was having this conversation this morning. She was like, find someone at a meeting and ask them if they can take you through the steps in 90 days. It wasn't like, will you be my sponsor? Will you do this? Like I'd been in AA. She had seen it for the last couple of years. It was like, no, you go in there and be intentional about what you're looking for. And this is what it was. This guy, Bo, spoke. I said, can you take me through the book in 90 days? He did. Then at 90 days, I got asked to start managing a sober house. And that's kind of where it all took off. Started playing a ton of basketball and just like, just doing it, dude. Unbelievable.
Recovery really materialized for you from that point.
100%.
Yeah.
And it was scary. It was like I didn't trust myself. It was like, I was running this group this morning, and it's like, I want it, right? And I heard that twice from like group members today. And it's like, I just threw myself in the middle finally, and was like trusted the process. And I let go of a lot of things, right? Like I was always focused on money. I was always focused on external image. And now I was like, I don't know anybody down here in Florida. I'm going to start making new connections.
Yep.
I'm going to like kind of, and this guy Vinny that I'm playing a lot of hoop with is like, I'm going to open up the sober house. And he's like, you want to manage it? I'm like, dude, I got like 90 days. He's like, you can do it.
Yeah.
He's like, you can do it. Trust me.
Yep.
And that was like, I mean, that still this day is like, I could like cry over that dude. Like, it was just such I'll never forget where I was when I got that phone call. I respected him so much. He had like 5 or 6 years when I first got down there. Now he's probably got 14, younger guy. It was, I'll put it this way. I was around a lot of guys that were in and out of jail a lot of their life, in and off the street.
Yep.
I ran with a higher bottom crowd. Like I wasn't in alleys where guys were shooting heroin. That's not my story. Like that. I'm not going to pretend like it's my story, right?
Yep.
And I was never more comfortable around a group of people in my entire life. You know, like it was like I had all these resentments, dad leaving and this happening and this happening. I'd get to know, guys I was living with in the house. Oh, I got all these resentments, right? And it's like, yeah, my dad handed me a crack pipe when I was 11 years old.
Yep.
That instantly, thanks to that individual, that instantly melts some of the, resentment that I have, right? Like, it's like, so that was like, it was the best, dude. And we like built it up, and it was just like seeing guys change, and it was like the real deal down there. Everyone was like IV heroin. 2017, South Florida was like trap house on each side of the sober house, like just insane. I always joke around, like my first year of sobriety was more like the acuity or the intensity was higher. Like I had a couple times I had to like Narcan guys. I had guys that would like, we'd have to kick him out. 2 weeks later, we'd get the unfortunate call, like he's gone, right? Like that wasn't the story. Like, was it really dark in Brooklyn? Was I all alone? Yes. Was I doing enough cocaine to kill me at times? Probably, yes. But like I wasn't around those type of people. And so yeah, it was like, it was wild, and it was awesome. And I just really like I said, I let go of trying to make something of myself. Or I was always like chasing, like if I get this amount of money, or if I get this type of job, or I get this type of girl, like all those insecurities are gonna go away. And like, we say in the rooms, like, it's a God-sized hole. I'm trying to fill it with something else, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, so that's kind of where it all started, dude.
Yeah, that's really, really cool.
Yeah.
What point did you move back up here?
So we built it. It was like we had one house, like 15 guys, and then he got a couple other houses, and then we were, $150 a week cash pay house, right?
Okay.
No insurance. Like to me, it's like real as it gets, right? Like it's just like you do it. If not, see ya. Like that's it.
If you're sober,
yes,
and you're you're gonna do it, yes.
It was, you could be so much more down there, like very like, all right, dude, you're out. Like, see you, dude. You're not going to meetings. You're not doing anything. Like, that's just like the way it is. Another guy's ready to come in, and respectfully, of course, but just very like, we're not whacking insurance. We're not like, it was just very, so that was like really meaningful in my relationship with Vinny, and his wife is a therapist and kids. So I would like, go over there Sundays and hang out, and like, but we were really like building up something. And so I had learned about like collegiate recovery probably around like a year maybe. And I was like, but I love South Florida. So I was like, this is what I want to do. Like, I want to work with college students on this stuff and get involved. So I hit up a couple schools down there, right? But it's like, what am I? I'm Brian. I have a year sober, and I like manage a sober house, and then like I'm a behavioral tech in a treatment center, right?
Yeah.
I'm like, hey, University of Miami, you should let me come in and like develop a whole program. And of course, like my emails wouldn't get responded to, or it's like, who the hell are you? But just like kind of lofty, like early sobriety, like expectations. And so anyway, what happens is Fairfield. So I'm like starting to like look at these jobs in collegiate recovery, and like Fairfield pops up, and I get the job. They're like, hey, can you be here in 2 weeks? It was actually like this time. It's probably like early August, and they
Yep.
needed someone for like the fall. And it was like, can you come here in like 2 weeks? And I had probably, so February, I had like, I guess it's like 18 months. And I was very big on like, I got sober. The narrative at that time was like, I got sober, sure, because of the steps, because of AA and GA and all this stuff. But it was like, I got sober because I stopped making decisions, right? Like, you want me to go to this treatment center? Fine, I'll go. You want me to go to Florida from there, not back to Brooklyn like I always do? Like, fine, I'll go. You want me to work the steps? Fine. You want me to manage the sober house even though I've never worked in treatment or anything? Like, sure, I'll do it. So then it was like the first time where it was like, I had to make a decision, like, sure, I might pick if I want a pepperoni slice or a cheese slice, but I wasn't, I was living very modestly. Like, I didn't have much, like, but I knew it was right. Cause it was going to be like, they were going to help me with my master's. They were going to, and so that's when I moved to Connecticut, August 2018. Yeah.
And you jump right into the recovery community. You take off of Fairfield University and kind of like really like structure the recovery programming.
Yeah, I was already established at Fairfield. So like Lisa Arnold was like great at like kind of teaching me the differences, because there was a lot of differences. Like when I first showed up, I remember calling Vinny and being like, dude, I don't know if I'm going to fit in here. Like all these boys drive like Audis and BMWs, like it's very, like you couldn't really talk about two different extremes, both sober houses, but like extremely different. And, which I look at now as like a real blessing that I got to like work with very different populations. So yeah. And it was scary, dude, because I had known Sacred Heart, which is like Bridgeport, Fairfield line. And I knew where to get cocaine in Bridgeport, and so it was like, yeah, I'm coming up. I remember that car ride, like driving up 95, like from Connecticut to from Florida to Connecticut, being like, all right, like let's go. And it was like, but I called the right people. I started working at Turnbridge, worked there for like a year. I got connected with a ton of the guys there. And then, yeah, so like threw myself in the middle for sure. Yeah. Started the hoop game pretty quick. Like Friday nights, we start getting the guys in that. We were playing a lot of hoop, just me and the guys in the house. Then I was working at Turnbridge, and it was like, oh, you guys, the employees there, like you guys play basketball too? And then it was just like, well, why don't you guys come and play with us? And then that was kind of how that started. And just a lot of like cultivating community. And it's like, it's the best. Like I managed sober houses for like 6 years straight, which is like kind of crazy, like it's crazy, but I loved it, like I have like little brothers and older brothers, like all across, it's spread out now. And it's like, cause you really, it's like now doing like the coaching or the counseling, it's like, yeah, you get close, but it's like, the way you get close, like residentially, like living like year over year, like it's different, and it's like, so yeah, it was the best. Like we'd see guys graduate that had been to multiple schools, and then they got to Fairfield and they graduate, and then, yeah.
That's really, really cool. Tell me what your recovery life is like today.
Great question. Life gets busy, and like, it's hard, right? Like it's, I don't get to like post up with the guys all the time. Like all those 6 years, it would always be like, just come down the family room and like hang out. And I'm always connected with other alcoholics. Like I have a wife and a baby. So I still go to meetings. I have sponsors in both AA and GA.
Nice.
I go to counseling. I'm a big, I've been in and out my entire sobriety, but like I've been pretty consistent the last couple months, which is like good. New baby definitely like put some stress in there, so like just like I'm just constantly, I think like you, like constantly connected with other people in addiction. Yeah, it's like everyone. If I'm on a car ride, like I'm talking to another alcoholic or addict,
Always.
100%, So it's just a lot of that,
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
If somebody, here's my last
yeah.
question for you. If somebody comes in here and they're in their first 24 hours, what do you think is the best piece of advice or support that you can give them?
Wow, it's a great question. And I've listened to other podcasts, and I know you asked that question, but and I've heard some really good answers. But I swear to you, I don't have I can't copy one of the previous good.
You can always
But
take a
I
second.
think I think the biggest thing, first 24 hours is you may not believe that life can get better, but I do, or Johnny does, or Jimmy in the back of the meeting does. And if you can believe that they do,
Yep.
just keep coming back. And if you need me, here's my number, call me. First 24 hours, we're there, right? It's
Yep.
it's what I've been taught to do from the very beginning. So, but I always tell the story, I had gotten that arrest
Yep.
and I was mandated to go to work with a recovery coach, and part of that was go to a meeting.
Mm-hmm.
And at the time, I was a cigarette smoker, and I chain smoking cigarettes on the drive to my car, and I see these bunch of guys outside a meeting smoking cigarettes, and I'm like, what a bunch of scumbags smoking cigarettes. That was my first thought. So my level of disqualification was through the roof, right? In my mind, I smoked differently than them, or I wasn't even though I was a smoker, I just somehow wasn't in that moment, or
Yeah.
but that's how much my disease was trying to get me to not connect. So I guess it's a hard question, but it's a lot of maybe you don't believe, but if you can believe that I believe, maybe then we can go somewhere.
I like that.
Hey, what's something you like? Let's just talk about that tomorrow. You want to talk about the Steelers tomorrow? Let's call me and we'll chop it up about
Yeah.
So yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you.
Yeah, dude, this was awesome, man.
Thank you so much for coming on today.
Thanks for all the work you guys do.
Of course.
Super grateful to be here.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Yes.